welcome back to my channel. I am back in my usual little spot, and I kind of decorated it for autumn. Oh, as you can see, well, you're seeing my right hand. Anyway, as you can see, I can kind of use it. Tomorrow I have a follow-up appointment with my orthopedic, and then I have physical therapy. And I have physical therapy for the next 6 weeks, 2 times a week. So today's video, I am talking about my testimony. I kind of talked a little bit about feeling God's presence, and that talked a little bit about my testimony in my last video that I uploaded, which I know was 2 weeks ago, maybe even 3. I just fell off the bandwagon. We had a COVID scare in my house. We thought my boyfriend might have had COVID, and I still couldn't really set up the camera at the time. All of these excuses, I know I probably could have figured something out, but I just wasn't feeling it. And so now I am going to mass produce videos, and I'm going to be switching up my schedule. So I'll be uploading 2 times a week. Monday will be Jesus Monday, because Lord knows everybody needs some God on Monday. Monday is one of the hardest days, so we're going to need some Jesus on that day. So that will be every Monday. I'll be posting some sort of religious video. Fridays will be kind of like free roam, so it'll be mainly nutrition or fitness or homemaking or redoing my apartment, anything like that. So you can always find Jesus on Mondays, and you'll find everything else on Fridays. So now that I have that huge disclaimer / update / me rambling nonstop, we can get into my testimony. So I grew up with a mother who is very much so into Jesus. We moved up the mountain from down the hill. That's our little phrasing. I'm not going to give too much information about where we live because it makes me feel uncomfortable, but we moved up the mountain and we found a church. And so for the first few years when I was pretty young, I would just go to Sunday school, and so my mom would go to her little youth group church. She would go to her church, my older brother would go to youth group, and my little brother and I would go to the younger kids' little area. Long story short, I kind of have a little bit of a background when it came to religion, but I had never really thought about it in the sense of it wasn't something that I made important in my life. It was, I wake up and God's there, but I have all these other things to worry about. As I entered high school, my freshman year is really when my whole life went, I don't want to say downhill, but I'm not going to say uphill either. I started smoking cigarettes, and then I quit that and went to vape. I tried alcohol. I drifted away from the Lord for sure. And I had a very bad experience where maybe one day I'll sit down and talk about that very traumatic experience, but I don't think that should be a part of my story necessarily today. I went through my high school experience. I pretty much just turned my back on God. I didn't really think that I needed him. I would pray, Lord, please calm me down. I'm so nervous. Or I have this big old assignment due. Please help me to do it. But I never made him a priority. He was never a priority. And as a kid, I would pray every single night before I fell asleep. And in high school, that's where it all stopped. I used to not be able to sleep until I prayed. And then once I hit high school, I just stopped. Everything changed when high school attacked. That is an Avatar: The Last Airbender reference. You're pretty darn cool if you get it. So, fast forward a few years. I was supposed to join the military. I didn't. That's where my alcohol problem started. And I have yet to completely talk about it. I have filmed so many videos of me recovering and really just discovering who I was. These past 2 or 3 years have been some of the hardest years of my entire life. I know that's probably not saying much because I'm 21, but I've learned a lot, and I've learned a lot about myself, and I'll get into all of that later, but alcohol is a very key part of this whole journey that we're going to be going on. So I essentially turned to alcohol. I started drinking because it was fun, because it made me feel alive, because I felt real emotion again. I hadn't noticed that I had stopped feeling emotions until I went to therapy, and in therapy, I kind of got worse before I got better, yada yada yada. So my boyfriend and I move in together, and I'm like lit. I'm 19, I think I turned 19, something like that. I can't buy alcohol for myself, so I'm like lit, he can buy alcohol for me, this is great. I drank nonstop for a year, 2 years. I honestly can't remember the time period exactly, because it's pretty crazy. I'll get into that whole journey in a whole separate video, but long story short, I was struggling, and it took me a very long time to get to a better place with it. Fast forward, this is a whole year of trying to recover all of that fun stuff. It is December 28th, 2019, and it is the day that changed my whole life. I'm getting emotional thinking about it because it honestly changed my entire life. Pretty crazy heavy stuff. So I wake up in that morning, I remember just hating the world, hating everything. I was so angry. I don't remember why. I just did not want to go to work. I didn't want to do anything. I know that it had been snowing nonstop. I think the power was out at my house. I was just in a rotten mood, just the most angry mood. And I had been like that for quite some time, just so angry, without any answers, without, understanding why it felt like everything was falling apart. All of these different things. I go outside, and my boyfriend had told me previously that I would be able to back out. Well, I couldn't because it had snowed more, and then it was icy, so I'm even more pissed, and I'm taking the ice off of my windshield, and I'm just so pissed, and blah, 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 and I cut my left hand a little bit on the ice because, it's sharp. Go wake up my boyfriend, I pound in there, I'm like, you told me I could back out, and I can't shovel this now, it's too hard. So he goes, he's grumbling, he helps me do that. My car's almost out of gas. The whole town is out of power. So I didn't realize I wouldn't be able to pump gas. I drive down there to the gas station, turn off my car to go try to pump gas, and the gas station is out of power because we have no power. So that means I can't pump gas. I don't know why I didn't put that together, but I didn't. Go into my car to, start it and go up to the next gas station. My car battery is dead. So I'm just having an even more awful time. I call my mom and I'm just like crying so hard, like so hysterical, because my boyfriend's phone is dead because we can't charge it because we don't have any power, and so he can't, help me. So I'm calling my mom, I'm like crying. We go and pick up my boyfriend, we jump my car, we go up to the next gas station, I get gas, I tell my boss I'm gonna be late, blah, blah, blah. By this point, I was going to quit my job. And I really wish that I could say I was joking, but I was going to quit that day. Full intention. I was so done with everything. It wasn't my job's fault, wasn't anybody's fault but my own. I was just in such a terrible, horrific mood. I hated everybody. I hated myself. I was in such a bad place mentally, and I was literally going to quit my job that day. 100% without a shadow of a doubt. If I hadn't gotten injured, I would have quit that day. Quit my job. I don't know what I would have done if I would have done that too. So I go downstairs. I am an hour and a half late to work. Go downstairs to go start a load of laundry or move a load of laundry over. And we have this certain kind of washer that you have to slam open with one hand and push a button with your other hand. And so it had been broken on and off. One of my coworkers is like, use a knife. It's easier to open this way. I'm like, So I tried to open it. I slammed it once, didn't open. And I used almost my full force. So then I used my full force to try to open this thing up because, like I had said, it had been broken. And I slammed my wrist instead of my hand. Almost completely missed my wrist. So I'm sitting there like, oh, mother, son of a, I'm saying all the curse words. Nobody else was down there. I'm like, okay, I work in a hospital. I can go ask people what's up with this. Maybe, I don't have to go on workman's comp. I don't got to do anything like that. We'll be fine, right? I go up. I talk to one of my nurse friends. She's an LVN. amazing. Shout out to that queen. I'm not going to say her name just in case she wants her privacy. I go up to her and say, hey, what's up with this? She's like, go take your lunch break, come back to me, and we'll see how it feels. Well, I went on my lunch break, FaceTime my mom. I'm like, this does not feel right. Nothing feels good. She's like, I think you're going to have a few days off to figure out what's wrong with it, blah, blah, blah. Go back in. It's still not feeling good. It's swelling. I can't get my ring off anymore. I used to wear a ring on this finger right here. Couldn't get it off. So I decide, okay, I gotta go to the ER. I go in the ER, I start sending the paperwork, talk to somebody on the phone for workman's comp. I get sent out to the waiting room, go to the waiting room, then I go through triage, then I go back to the waiting room. It's a chaotic day in the ER. I forget why. This is before COVID, so I can't remember 100%. I think there was just a lot of people coming in. So I finally get pulled back, and I'm in the bed, somebody's filling out the paperwork for me, and a code comes in. And so then I get sent back out. So my boyfriend is meeting me up there because I can't drive myself home. We're still waiting, blah, blah, blah. I finally get pulled back. The doctor examines it. They put me in a little splint thing on one side, and then I have a bandage that wraps that all the way around my arm. And I get sent home with the instructions of see an orthopedic or a hand specialist within 10 days of that day. So I'm not sure if I'm getting paid at this point. I'm not sure. I'm just panicking. I'm starving. I'm tired. I'm sad. I'm mad. I'm like, I'm going to quit my job for sure now. Like, I hate everything. So I get home. I'm, getting a hold of people for workman's comp. I'm saying to them over and over again, like, I need to see a doctor within 10 days. I need to see one. What's going on? How come I'm not seeing a doctor? Oh, it takes time. Oh, this order has to go through. Oh, you have to see a doctor here first before you do this. Oh, you'll get the check here. All of these just unanswered questions from multiple different people. The HR department helps me figure out a lot of stuff, and so they were great, but, they're only there for the first few days, and then it's pretty much me and the workman's comp agent person thing and all of the doctors. So I'm like, when can I get in? When can I get in? And I think it was a month and a half or 2 months after I was injured when the doctor said first 10 days, month and a half to 2 months, I go see the doctor. And so that meant that my hand had not moved because I was given the instructions to not take off the splint, to not, wash it, to not move my hand in any sort of way until I have further instruction from a hand specialist or from an orthopedic. Under no circumstance am I supposed to take it off. Meanwhile, I was taking it off sometimes because it was hurting so incredibly bad. I had something I was pushing into my wrist. I was allergic to the bandages. It started to smell weird. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. I finally see the doctor. He doesn't know what's wrong with me. So he's like, okay, let's start you with some physical therapy. Start some physical therapy. He's thinking it's one thing. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Do my physical therapy, I'm getting better, but I'm not 100%. I still, at this point, do not know what's wrong, by the way. I'm continuously going back and forth between the physical therapist and my orthopedic nonstop. And in this time, I am the most depressed I have ever been in my entire life. I don't want to get too emotional about this because it has a happy ending, but it was the hardest time I have had, and as I've said earlier, I've had some pretty traumatic events. This was the most lonely, the most defeating, the most hopeless I have ever been. I would wake up at 11, sometimes 12. I would get up and sit on the couch. I could only make a few things to eat for myself because I only have one hand. I would sit on the couch all day and look at my iPad and watch videos and wait till my boyfriend got home, and my boyfriend would feed me, and then he would do all the dishes and clean up the house, and then he wanted a break. He wanted to play some video games, and I couldn't do that. And so I had felt so lonely because he was right next to me, but we weren't doing anything, we weren't talking, and it was like that for several months. I stopped showering. I stopped brushing my teeth and washing my face. I would forget when the last time it was that I ate or drank water. I was no longer functioning as a person at all. I never left my house unless it was for an appointment. And that was it. We were making $200 less because I was getting paid, but $200 less than I normally would have been paid. So money was hard to figure out. I was struggling. I was in such a low place in my life. I wanted to just... I wanted it to all be over. I didn't want to live anymore. I just wanted to explain really quick because I was too emotional in that time to explain a bit more as to why I was so depressed. I was depressed because I was unable to do any of the activities that I used to be able to do. I didn't feel safe driving because I was afraid I was going to get into a car accident. I only had one hand. I couldn't really feed myself. The things that I could eat, I would run out of all the time. So that's why I couldn't really cook for myself. I only like eggs a certain way, and these were a lot of excuses. I could have probably figured it out, but at that point I was slowly declining mentally. So each day was another new defeat that I would find. I would think, oh, maybe I could learn how to write with my left hand, and maybe I could spend my time doing that. And I just didn't have it in me each day to try and fail. I needed a success. I needed something to be happy about, and it felt like I was constantly getting failures. So I kind of hope that explains a bit why. I don't want to be like, oh, people have it way worse. They lose a limb, and I totally understand that. This is just where I was. So yeah. And so one week, I remember, I had a lot to do that week, or at least it felt like a lot to me. I had to go to... I don't think I had started physical therapy up until this week, so this is when I would start. I had to try my physical therapy out. I think I had another doctor's appointment, which I always had a lot of anxiety over. I had to go to the orthodontist. I had to go to the store. I had normal things that people could handle, but at that time I was so fragile and so anxious and depressed that leaving the house in any sort of way was a burden. And so I cried out to Jesus on my hands and knees and sobbed, saying, please, calm my soul, make this easier. I cannot handle this. This is too much. Which is so crazy because I look at that now and I'm like, yeah, maybe I don't want to do all of that in 1 week, but I can do it. It's not the craziest thing in the world. Last week I was barely home, which is mind-boggling where I'm at now versus then, but I had that in my head where I need to get closer to God. If I got closer to God, all my problems would disappear, which... newsflash, that's not really true, but how you feel about those problems and how you feel and how you go through life is a lot more different than without God. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna, get a book. I'm gonna do something to figure out how to get closer to God. And so I stumbled upon, I do this every time, and then I forget to link her every time. She's a YouTuber. I think her name is Ashley. I will link her at some point, I promise. I just typed in Christian Women's Devotional, and I talked about this in that video previous, how I felt God's presence, and for the first time in my entire life, peace. Absolute peace. Peace like I had never felt before. Peace. What a blessing peace is. What a blessing I didn't know I was missing out on. And I'm not saying that your relationship with God is always going to be a consistent, my mom just died, but I'm doing great. That's not, how it works. Maybe it is for you. Definitely not how it is for me. I have a comforter. I have so much to learn. I have not read the entire Bible. I have so many things I feel I need to do to improve my faith, but without God, I would not be here today. I would have quit my job. I would have probably killed myself by now. Alcohol would have taken over. So many things would have happened. I truly think that was God's wake-up call to my life, was that injury, was letting me see how low I can get, was showing me what it's like when I'm in charge. When I think I know what's best for my life, that's where I end up. And I have a very hard time, relinquishing control, as I think a lot of us do. But God truly showed me what a difference He can make in your life. I used to not be able to call in an order and pick it up in a restaurant because I was so incredibly anxious. Now it's not even a second thought. I can go see a new doctor and not flip my crap. Almost all of my anxieties that I used to have about going into public and going to new places is gone. Incredible. So, to wrap up this entire thing, I'm sorry it was so long, but it was a really long road to get to where I am. And I am so incredibly thankful and blessed to have God in my life. I'm going to quickly wrap this up because I have a lot of editing to do. I hope you guys have an amazing, blessed day. Please stay safe, cover your face, wash your hands, Black Lives Matter, and Jesus freaking loves you. How incredible is that Jesus loves you? Amazing. I love you guys. Have a beautiful, amazing, blessed day. Goodbye.